Far to the east of Cloudoria lay the kingdom of Voltoria, a realm that had built its entire prosperity on data. Trade records, shipping manifests, population censuses. Voltoria held the numbers that Cloudoria needed to govern, and Cloudoria held the goods that Voltoria needed to survive. For years they had exchanged this information daily, and every day, without exception, it traveled the public world road, open, slow, passing through foreign hands. The king of Cloudoria summoned his counterpart. The two rulers sat across a table and reached the same conclusion at the same time. A private passage between our two kingdoms, direct, secret, and shared by no one else. No more world road, no more foreign eyes on sensitive cargo. The data would travel underground from one kingdom directly to the other, as if they were rooms in the same building. Lady Nedia was called in immediately. She had built tunnels before, the stone corridors, the living quarters, the relay station. She knew underground passages, but a tunnel between two sovereign kingdoms was a different matter entirely. She set down her quill and looked at both kings. Before a single stone is moved, she said, there are 3 laws. Every kingdom-to-kingdom passage must obey all 3, break even one, and I cannot build it. The first law was the law of different addresses. If Cloudoria used addresses starting at 10.0.0.0, and Voltoria also used addresses starting at 10.0.0.0, the tunnel would create immediate chaos. A message addressed to 10.0.1.5 would arrive at the junction and nobody would know which kingdom it belonged to. The addresses had to be completely separate, no overlap, not even one. Lady Nedia looked at the Voltorian architects. What range do you use? They told her. She checked her maps. There was no conflict. Good, she said, first law satisfied. The second law was the law of direct passage only. A tunnel connects 2 kingdoms and 2 kingdoms alone. It does not pass through. If Cloudoria builds a tunnel to Voltoria, and Voltoria later builds a tunnel to a third kingdom called Dataland, that does not mean Cloudoria can reach Dataland through Voltoria's tunnel. Cloudoria's messages enter the passage, travel to Voltoria, and stop. They cannot continue through Voltoria to emerge somewhere else. The tunnel is not a road. It is a bridge with exactly 2 ends. The king of Cloudoria frowned. But if we ever need to connect to Dataland as well, Lady Nedia cut him off gently. Then you build your own tunnel to Dataland, a direct passage. Every pair of kingdoms that wishes to communicate privately must construct their own dedicated connection. There is no shortcut through a neighbor. This frustrated him. She had expected it. It frustrates everyone, she said. It is still the law. The third law was the law of mutual agreement. A tunnel cannot be built by one side alone. Cloudoria could request the passage. Voltoria would receive the request, but the tunnel would not exist until Voltoria formally accepted. If Voltoria declined, or simply never responded, there was no tunnel. Both kingdoms had to agree. One handshake was not enough. Both hands had to reach. The 2 kings shook hands. The architects verified the addresses. The requests were sent and accepted. Lady Nedia's team broke ground on both sides simultaneously. 3 months later, the Alliance Tunnel was complete. A private underground passage running directly between the 2 kingdoms' city walls. No world road, no foreign territories. Data entered one end and emerged at the other, and nowhere in between did it touch anything that did not belong to one of the 2 kingdoms. The first shipment through the Alliance Tunnel was a month's worth of Voltoria's trade census. It arrived in Cloudoria in minutes, clean, intact, and entirely invisible to the outside world. The Voltorian ambassador stood at the Cloudoria end of the tunnel and watched the data arrive. He turned to Lady Nedia. How did we ever tolerate the world road? She said nothing. The answer was obvious to both of them. The tunnel changed how the 2 kingdoms worked. Reports that once took days now arrived in minutes. Cloudoria's planners stopped worrying about interception. Voltoria's record keepers stopped paying world road courier fees. Both kingdoms were richer and more secure than they had been before. And they had not built a single new wall, gate, or guard. They had simply stopped using a road they had never needed to use. In AWS, this Alliance tunnel is called VPC Peering. A VPC peering connection creates a direct private network link between 2 VPCs entirely within the AWS network. Traffic travels between them without touching the public internet, without needing an internet gateway, and without passing through any third-party infrastructure. Once peering is established and route tables on both sides are updated, Resources in one VPC can communicate with resources in the other as if they were in the same network. The three laws map directly to how VPC peering works in AWS. The law of different addresses is the CIDR overlap rule. The two VPCs must have non-overlapping IP address ranges. If both use 10.0.0016, peering is impossible. AWS will reject it. Check your CIDR blocks before requesting a peering connection. The law of mutual agreement maps to the peering request and acceptance model. One account requests the connection, the other account must explicitly accept it. No automatic approval, no one-sided connections. The law of direct passage. Only is the most important rule for the exam. VPC peering is non-transitive. If VPC A is peered with VPC B and VPC B is peered with VPC C, VPC A cannot reach VPC C through VPC B. There is no transitive routing. A can reach B, B can reach C. A cannot reach C. If you need A to reach C, you build a direct peering connection between A and C. Each pair needs its own dedicated connection. This is the rule that trips most people on the SAA exam. VPC peering also works across AWS accounts and across AWS regions. The two VPCs do not need to belong to the same account, and they do not need to be in the same region. A VPC in US East 1 can peer with a VPC in AP Southeast 1, as long as the three laws are satisfied. The traffic travels over AWS's backbone network, fast, private, and never touching the public internet, regardless of which regions are involved. The exam scenario you will see most often. Two VPCs need to share resources privately. The question will describe the setup, mention that traffic must not cross the internet, and ask what to configure. The answer is VPC peering, plus updating the route tables on both sides. The route tables matter. Creating the peering connection alone is not enough. Each VPC's subnet route table must have a route pointing to the peering connection for the other VPC's CIDR range. Without the route, traffic does not flow even if the peering connection exists. The mnemonics. Peering equals point-to-point only, no passing through. CIDR must differ, no duplicate addresses or no deal. Both kings shake hands. Both accounts must accept. A to B to C does not equal A to C. Build your own tunnel. The Alliance Tunnel served Cloudoria and Vaultoria well for many years, but Cloudoria kept growing. New kingdoms requested connections. A to B, A to C, A to D, Lady Nedia built each one. Then one morning she counted the tunnels on her map and stopped. Cloudoria now had 11 separate peering connections, each with its own route tables, its own maintenance schedule, its own set of rules. Each new alliance added more. She sat back and thought about what this would look like in 5 years. It was Corridor who said it first. "My lady," he said quietly, "there may be a better way to connect many kingdoms at once. Something in the center, a single point that every kingdom connects to, rather than every kingdom connecting to every other kingdom directly." Lady Nedia looked at his sketch for a long time, then she nodded slowly. "Build me a model," she said. Episode 9. The Transit Hub.